the questions keep being answered by Max Verstappen, and emphatically so. 9 victories in a row, and this one at home will taste incredibly sweet. We had thrills, we had spills, we had rain, we had dry, and through it all we had one of the best Grand Prix of this or any season. To wrap it all up, welcome to your post-race show with me, Will Bucks, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jolien Palmer and by Stoffel Van Dorn. Guys, that was a race. Jolien's just arrived from the commentary box and said, I'm knackered, I'm exhausted.
Trying to work out how long that race, it was 2 hours 50, I think, in the end. So we almost got to the 3 hours, and it was just action from the first lap. It was chaotic. The last lap, it was still battling for position. In between, there was chaos. It was an entertaining one, but it was a tough one from the commentary box, that.
Tough one for the drivers as well out there, Stoffel. Max Verstappen, though, imperious.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, he was very much in control of this race, and they just kept throwing everything at him. The rain, you know, very tricky track conditions, but he was so superior. He always had a big enough advantage to even make an extra stop at the end to pit onto the full wets. So yeah, another masterful race from him.
It was masterful. Guys, you can get in touch, of course, don't forget, hashtag F1 Live with any questions you might have about the craziness we just saw, and the craziness began on lap 1. We were down on the grid. It suddenly got very cold. The wind picked up, it got dark, the clouds rolled in. We didn't even get half a lap until the rain fell. And from that point on, everyone was hanging on. And it was really a question of when you pitted. And it looked like Sergio Perez had pulled a masterstroke.
He definitely did. I think he was the first one that pitted on lap 1. Max and Fernando stayed out. A couple of others stayed out as well. I think the McLarens as well did. And I think it was a very tricky call, because the team kept telling, yeah, it's going to last for a couple of minutes, try and survive, but it was so wet that the inters were always going to be a lot quicker. So yeah, ultimately Sergio had a good one.
By the end of the lap, there was spray coming off the slicks. I am actually very surprised that more teams didn't pit for the inters on the first lap, and that was the magic shot, wasn't it, on the start of the race, to just make qualifying irrelevant. You had Joe suddenly running in the top 3, Gasly, that made his race by pitting, and it did just suddenly, at this point, it's all it's sort of, you can tiptoe around and make it work. You get another few corners in, and it was just chucking it down, so you had to make a really quick decision suddenly, and those that did it took a huge benefit for the whole race.
And this is it, 7 drivers pitted end of lap 1, 4 drivers pitted end of lap 2, so still only just over half the field had pitted for intermediates by the end of the second lap. You said you were surprised by that. What was going on in the teams? You know, at Aston, you would have heard what was going on, that decision to wait, to pit. How hard is that choice?
It was a tricky situation. I think, you know, the teams were very focused on how long that shower was going to last, and they kept telling Fernando, well, it's only going to be 1 or 2 more minutes, so try and stick it out, because it's going to dry very quickly. But I think during that process, maybe we forgot a little bit to look at the actual track conditions and how much time you lose with these slicks on wet conditions. I mean, these cars, they literally lose all grip, and we saw with Sergio, you know, he kind of regained his pit stop gap in about 1 lap. So yeah, with hindsight, we probably could have pitted a lap earlier, but the end result was still good for us.
Hindsight's always 2020. I wonder if Williams will be looking back on this race as one that might have been. Alex Albon starting 4th, stayed out throughout that first rainy period on slick tyres, ran them for about 40 or more laps. Ultimately did finish in the top 10, but it looked sketchy for a while. Laura's caught up with James Vowles down in the paddock.
Well, amidst the melee, I've just bumped into James Vowles coming back from the garages. James, what a race. Complicated one of that. Just how difficult was it to make the right decisions at the right time there?
I think any time that you have weather fronts coming in like that, every 15, 20 minutes, and you're not quite sure if it's going to be enough for inters, for ex-wets, or could you just survive on dry tyres, you can see the field shuffling because they weren't quite sure what to do either. Ultimately, we got some of the calls wrong today. No doubt and question about it. Come the first one, we thought that the rain wouldn't be quite as intense as it was, and it was just too much. But here's the interesting thing. If you missed the first lap, which Perez took, and the second lap, now you've got to commit. And that was the awful window that we're in. Alex did a very good job with it, and you saw we came back up into that sort of points fighting position again. And on the second stop again, it was just a question of when was it going to hit within seconds? And we have radars and system, but the radar updates once every 30 seconds. It's an inexact science, I think it's fair to say, but there's definitely things we can improve, and we will. There's tools, systems, developments that we have to go through after this. Alex did a sterling job today. He brought the car home in 8th, deserved every point.
Yeah, he did a brilliant job, didn't he? And that long stint on softs as well was something special. Just how important is that kind of leadership for Williams at the moment as you seek to rebuild?
I think, as I said, a number of times, he is very good at providing a direction to the team. He's very good at understanding where the limitations or weaknesses of himself and the car are and where we need to focus. And I think he has a forum and a platform now where we can talk about it. What we need is obviously to provide him a car that's continuously moving forward and developing over the next few months and years.
And a word for Logan Sargent as well. There was so much promise coming into today with that Q3, of course, starting in the top 10. He looked so gutted sitting out there. I'm sure you've spoken to him. What's the reaction been like, and where does he go from here?
I think the main thing here is to explain what happened with Logan. He took a curb that he'd been hitting quite a few times on Friday, and in fact in the race very quickly had the engineer look through and we hit at least the last 4 laps. On that particular lap, we lost hydraulic pressure. And when you lose hydraulic pressure, to explain how the cars work, your steering systems effectively are hydraulic as well. So he had no steering assist and went off. So this wasn't a replication of what we saw before. Now, what we need to understand is why particularly we saw such spikes and why we lost hydraulic pressure there. But irrespective, that's happened. And he was gutted because you always question yourself, you question everything. He knows that today, given how messy it was, really, it was chaos out there, there was opportunity.
Yeah, but on to Monza, where typically it should suit your car a bit more than here, and look what you managed here.
Yeah, I think Monza is a track where we'll perform very well. I'm fairly confident of that. That said, this weather keeps coming in and out, so let's see.
We'll see. James, thank you so much, and well done to Williams today. Appreciate it.
The always informative and eloquent James Vowles there. Let's move on from the start into what transpired next, because the track dried quickly once the rain stopped, and it then became the question of when you come in to change. Red Bull choosing to bring Verstappen in before Perez, but Verstappen had been hunting down Sergio at one point, when we got released, 4.2 seconds quicker per lap.
Yeah, it was impressive, his run on the intermediates. You know, I think Sergio had about 10 seconds, or was about 10 seconds in front of Max, and he managed to cut it back by like 3-4 seconds a lap. And yeah, that gave him the opportunity to make an undercut. And yeah, once Max got in the lead, there was not really a challenge on him, to be honest.
Yeah. Red Bull, you think the decision was clear there to pit Verstappen rather than Perez, who at the time was the race leader?
Normally you'd say you pit the race leader, but I think it was an obvious one for them, wasn't it? I mean, Checo had already had the good call on the first lap. Max was so much quicker. If they pit Checo first and Max second, then they're going to be racing each other in a few laps anyway. So they just avoided a bit of team orders or a team on-track battle by pitting Max. And it didn't cost Checo a huge amount. He still was in second place and on for a good result then.
We talk about, you know, that decision, how key that was to the race result. And I think actually Sam Collins wants to talk a little bit more about that in the studio. So we'll roll back to Sam. Sam, what do you make of the Perez race today?
It could have been so much more for Sergio Perez at the Dutch Grand Prix, but it all just went a little bit wrong very late in the race. The safety car was out, the rain was falling, the team called in Sergio Perez for a set of extreme wet weather tyres. He came into the pit lane, found there was no grip, and just biffed the wall ever so slightly. And that little contact with the wall was all important because it put the Mexican driver off his stride ever so slightly. And he didn't brake and slow the car down quite enough to hit this, the 60 kilometers per hour pit lane speed limit. As the Red Bull was decelerating over this line just here, he crossed the line by 0.8 kph too much. He was 60.8 kph over the line. Can't go faster than 60. If you want to know what 0.8 kph is, that's half a mile an hour. So a tiny amount over the line, just crossing for what turned out to be a completely unnecessary pit stop in the end for those extreme wet tyres. And it cost Perez the podium position that he would have otherwise got. Just a tiny moment there on the pit lane entry. Also caused a bit of damage to the Red Bull at the rear end. During the red flag period, the mechanics worked really hard to make a repair to the back of that car. got him back out on track, but didn't quite get that gap over Pierre Gasly, cost the Red Bull driver his podium position. So not unlucky, just a poor decision to come in for those extreme wets, but you can understand why the team did it in the conditions. But guys, just another difficult time for Sergio Perez here in the Dutch Grand Prix.
Red Bull won too, if not for that small mistake. Now we talk about mistakes, and obviously the strategic decisions today were all over the place, difficult to make, but George Russell fuming earlier on in the race that what he had said was a projected podium, and they had the pace for it, so it looked anyway, went completely the opposite direction. Back of the field on a set of hard tyres, Stoffel. How frustrating is that when you're looking at a podium and then you're miles outside the points?
Yeah, it was not his day. I think they kind of were just 1 or 2 laps behind every decision, basically, and it just put them right at the back of the queue, and then I think they were kind of just trying something different, and he was the first driver on hard tires, which they didn't look to be a good race tire today. I think the soft today definitely worked very well. They held on for a long time, and that was definitely the tire to be on. So he just sat in the pack behind Charles, I think, who was kind of holding everyone back, and it's just a difficult afternoon for him. Very difficult afternoon, Jolie, and almost a horrible afternoon from him after he tested the structural integrity of his underpants at one point. It was...
I don't know how he didn't end up in the wall.
Talking about it.
Yeah, it was the save of the season, no doubt for me. The Russell one, with Hamilton just behind, he's on an old hard tyre, but then he just went fully, dropped that wheel on the grass, and he had been so close to doing that already just a few laps before. And they're going right up to maximise the track width. And yeah, we can see it here. This was just, it's such a huge moment. And at that speed, you know, Stoffel, how quickly the cars snap when you're going at that speed. You lose the aero platform and you're sideways as well. That's a miraculous save.
Incredible, incredible. Was fighting for the points in the end. Little knock with Lando. That gave him a puncture, brought him into the pit lane, and ultimately race ruined for him. No points returned for George Russell. He's with Lawrence Barretto in the television pen.
What an afternoon. There were some points there where I thought it was going to turn out okay for you, and then it just got very difficult. Just talk me through how it went for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really strange race, and I thought he was in a great position at one point. The team told me 2 minutes of rain for 2 guys leading the race, pitted. I overtook Lando for the lead. And the next thing, Checo comes by and everybody comes past, and 2 minutes turns into 10 minutes of rain, and then we go from the lead to P17. So, you know, we need to understand why our forecast and prediction was showing us this, because ultimately that's what ruined our day today.
And what happened with that moment with Lando? We only saw one shot on the replay. It was too difficult.
Yeah, it was just a racing incident. We was very close around turn 9 and then turn 10, and then I ended up with a puncture. So nobody's fault. You know, it topped off what was a bad day.
All right, hard luck. Thank you.
Good of George to admit that from his perspective that was a racing incident. Of course, the stewards determining not to look into that any more than just to actually give it a look and not go any further than that. But nice not to hear a Palmer klaxon of just get on with it. Yeah, good stuff from George Russell. Now, one driver I want to talk about, thrown in the craziest of circumstances for his Grand Prix debut. Liam Lawson has had so much to contend with over the last 24 hours. He's finished 13th on debut. And as a rookie, in these kind of conditions, on this track that is so unforgiving, to not make a mistake, honestly, I thought he had a hell of a debut.
Really commendable, I think, his performance. Nothing sensational, but that was not what he was really required to do. I don't think anyone at Red Bull would have expected him to come in and, you know, get right on pace with Tsunoda. He only was driving yesterday. The first time he was driving this car on a slick tyre was on the way to the grid. Like, that's so hard to go and do. With these guys that are racing all season, they drove here in the dry on Friday, so they've done 60 laps in the dry, and he's just turned up to punishing circuit, bolt on slick tyres, join the back of the grid, and off you go. That's tough.
And if, you know, let's say that moment between George and Lando drops back along with George, somebody else manages to spin out in those tough conditions, he's got a point on debut. He kept his head, brought it to the flag. That was job one for Liam Lawson today. Stoffel, how impressed were you with the job that he's done?
I think he did a very good job, and like Jolien said, you know, nothing flashy came out, but he didn't make any mistake. He missed FP1, missed FP2, got thrown in on Saturday for FP3 and qualifying, which were extremely tricky conditions in the wet. And then another very difficult race today. And, you know, he did a solid job, didn't make any mistakes, and brought it home. And I think that was what was required from him.
But you're a reserve driver. What if you get the call on yesterday as well? It suddenly chucks it down. Are you thinking, this is it, this is my time to go and show what I can do? Or are you thinking, this is going to be really, really tough?
Yeah, and caveat this with the fact that you have Grand Prix driving experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's never comfortable to jump in that late into the weekend, because you're going up against the best driver as well. So already, you know, in the best of circumstances, it's tricky to go up against them. But then to get thrown in with just one practice session, it's very difficult. But you got no choice. You got to get on with it. And I think it's just about head down and yeah, focus on the job to do.
Incredible experience for him. Wonderful job. Liam Lawson's in the pen.
Hey Liam, well, what a hectic race to make your F1 debut. Incredible result, really, all things considered. How do you feel?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot going on. When I was rolling up to the grid and it was raining, starting to rain, wasn't the best feeling. But yeah, the race was okay. We lost, I mean, obviously a huge amount of time at the start with the stack, and then we had no choice to make the pit stop. But unfortunately, we got a penalty as well, so lost a lot of time. But I think the second half of the race was not so bad once we got clean air, and obviously the inters at the end was also not bad. Just happy to survive.
Are you just pleased, yeah, generally with the way you approached it 48 hours ago? You didn't know you were going to be in the car. You got to the end of your first Grand Prix in 13th place.
Yeah, I'm just happy to get through the race, honestly. There's definitely some work to do. I'm glad to have done it now, to be able to learn from this and take this forwards. Hopefully I get the opportunity to drive again, and then I can use everything I learned today for that. So main target for today was to do all 72 laps. I mean, looking back now that we had all the mixed conditions, it's probably good for me to have gone through that. So yeah.
And is that how the next couple of days are going to go? You're just going to wait for the call from Helmut to see what happens next?
Pretty much that exactly, yeah.
All right, best of luck. Thank you.
Job number one then for Liam Lawson. Don't stuff it. He absolutely didn't. Great job from him. We were talking about this before the race started today. The driver market moving into next year. AlphaTauri have 3 drivers now that they can look at for those 2 seats. Has Liam Lawson placed himself into the consideration, not just for AlphaTauri, potentially for open seats at Williams, Alfa Romeo, or will he need a couple more races until we know for sure?
I think it's too early to say that he's put himself in contention. He did fine. He kept it on the road. He didn't look out of place on the grid, but he also didn't really shine. And the grid's really competitive now as well. So you've got Ricciardo's coming back. Lawson or Ricciardo? Ricciardo's going to be his 8-time Grand Prix winner. But the big thing is that Liam's got another race at least to do. Maybe I don't see Daniel coming back for Singapore. So I think there could be another couple for him to try.
Of course, 2 other drivers under pressure, Zhou Guanyu, Logan Sargent, both of them crashing out of the race today, although, as James Vowles said, Logan Sargent's was down to a loss of hydraulic pressure, and I think we can forgive Zhou Guanyu losing it in those absolutely hideous conditions down there as the rain fell and everyone found themselves slippy, sliding, going down there into turn 1. Now, it was a day of contrast, I think, for McLaren, who had gone into the day hoping to fight for a podium. One of the drivers is joining us now, and it's Mr. Oscar Piastri, who finished in P9. Oscar, what a day out there. Are you just happy to bring it home on a day like today?
In some ways, yes. I think maybe there was a few opportunities we could have done a bit more with, but to have, both cars in the points in one piece is a bit more than what some other people can say. So not our best afternoon, I would say, but it could have been a lot worse, and it was looking a lot worse at one point.
Joe?
Couple of nice overtakes in there. After you made the decision to not pit onto the inters straight away, and you were waiting it out, and then you're stuck out of the points, out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Was it quite fun just charging, trying to get back to the points? Did you enjoy that part of racing?
At that point, yes. When you've got nothing to lose in conditions like that, it's certainly a bit of fun. I think it's more fun when you finish a bit higher up. But I think in the end, staying out on slicks could have been a bit better if we had have boxed on lap 1, but we were a lot better off than some other people still. And then unfortunately, passing Magnussen, I had locked up and flat spotted both fronts and had to box. So that really didn't help my cause. But yeah, coming back through the field, it's fun. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's more fun when you get more points.
Do you enjoy driving in the rain? Because we were trying to work it out earlier today. Is this the wettest Formula One season in history? There's been barely a completely dry weekend all year.
Yeah, I think we were saying before, we've not had a fully dry weekend since Monaco now, which was, what, round 6? Well, Imola, we didn't even go to because it was so wet. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a baptism of fire from that aspect of things. I feel like we've had 3 or 4 crazy races now. Melbourne, Monaco here. You know, in 13 F1 races, I feel like I've had 3 that have been pretty nuts. So it's been a big learning experience this weekend, has been as well. Certainly a few moments I wish I could do again, but no, it's been a fun weekend nonetheless.
Cool, on to Monza, excited for it?
I am. Hopefully we're a bit slipperier on the straights than we were at Spa. I'm confident we'll be a bit better, but we'll see what we have. I think the fight we're in with Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston is still so tight that we could be just at the front of that, we could be just at the back. So should be fun. Monza's always a really cool atmosphere, cool track. So hopefully it's a good weekend for us.
Lovely stuff, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right, from one McLaren driver, let's talk to his teammate now. They finished 7th and 9th, was 7th from the front row. A massive disappointment for Lando Norris. We'll find out in his own words.
Hey Lando, appreciate it just didn't work out for you today. When you look back on that decision to stay out on the softs, how do you reflect on it?
Wrong decision. Yeah, we just made the wrong decision at the beginning, so I guess, I mean, it happens, but at the same time, still we're doing a slightly better job than what we did today. So some good things, of course. I don't want to say it's all negative, but some points on the board. It wasn't like a shocking race. I think a lot of it was good. Like the pit stop for the second bit of rain was good. So some good things. Just the first one was a bad decision and cost us a lot of places, a lot of time.
One of the positive things, like you said, was the pace of the car did at least allow you to fight back through the field and with the other good decisions you did make.
A little bit, but nowhere near as much as what I would like. I couldn't overtake half the time just because we were so bad in the middle sector. So yeah, I think we expected it. That's why I was nervous coming into the race today. And yeah, what I thought was right. Like we were going to struggle in certain places. Some places we were good, and if we were in clean air, I think we were relatively alright. But like the Mercedes was on another level comparing to us today. Just their tyre deck's always better. They have a good front end in the car, and that's just what we lack on a day like today. So things we know again, but just not what we need for today.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, obviously disappointed Lando Norris given what could have been today, but it could have been one more position. Nothing in it between Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton over the line. We can take a look at the replay here because Hamilton fighting Sainz all the way to the line allowed Lando Norris right into the mix. And he caught right up to Hamilton at the end of the Grand Prix. I've not actually seen this, so I'm excited to see just how close it is. This is the wrong clip. This is the clip of Norris and Russell. That's nice, we get to see that as well. We might get to see the other clip as well, but it was great having him embroiled in that battle towards that. Oh, we can have a look at it. Roll VT. Let's have a look at this moment. Here we go. Down to start, finish straight. There's Hamilton on the right. Here's Norris. And what is it? 0.02 over the line? Oof, look at that. He's gone. If that was a metre further, Norris has got that position.
Yeah. But I want to know how it came to that anyway, because you wouldn't normally get so far alongside up until the finish line there. But I thought Lewis did a good job, actually. I was surprised that McLaren generally and Lando particularly couldn't make more progress through, given the pace that we saw from them all weekend, in the wet, in the dry. You're stuck on the front row. And I thought because, you know, Hamilton was further back, Russell was nowhere, Oscar was further back as well, and Lando was immediately, even after they didn't get the strategy right, on the edge of the top 10. I thought he'd come back more towards even Albon in the dry, but they just seemed a little bit subdued.
Stoffel, Mercedes today, obviously we've heard about and we've discussed George's afternoon not being fantastic. Hamilton seemed to be stuck in 13th for most of the afternoon, but then when everything started to fall together at the end of the race, started putting the moves in, looked really great.
Yeah, he looked good from the second half of the race. In the beginning, he was, you know, kind of staying there in his position he was in. But once the tire strategy was starting to play out, I think he unlocked a little bit of pace and he felt more comfortable, and that's when he started to put on some moves. So even in the wet at the end, he looked very competitive behind Carlos. But that Ferrari just had the edge on straight line speed.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I don't know who had the second quickest car today. I mean, obviously Fernando was flying, so maybe it was Aston Martin, but I would say the way that Hamilton was coming through the field as well, he was stuck in DRS trains with Norris. There was times with Tsunoda in there. They obviously both came past Leclerc as well at times. And when he did have a bit of clear air, he was quite quick and he was pressuring always the cars ahead, some of which was the McLaren. So I think the Mercedes race pace today was very strong. The strategy was just not there today for them, and that's where they, as George said it straight away, how did we blow it from a potential podium to being running both of them 13th and 17th from the word go?
Hamilton had admitted that everything had started to unravel after FP1. It all started to come good as the rain fell here in Zandvoort. P6 finish, way up from where he started on the grid.
Hey Lewis, I know 6 isn't what you fight for these days, but the way you drove today, the way you fought, the performance that you showed must be a little bit satisfying, is it, when you come across the line?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think today was a great example of just never give up, and if at first you fail or you stumble, just get back up and keep trying. And we did multiple times and ended up, at least at the beginning, ended up last at one point, and that was definitely frustrating. But I just kept my head down and kept pushing and had some great maneuvers, I think, quicker than Sainz at the end. Just unfortunately just couldn't overtake without the DRS.
You use that phrase, just got to keep pushing, keep your head down. That's what you've got to do, I guess, for the rest of the season now, and just try and find something where you can.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got work to do for sure, but there was times today where the car was much better today, and there was points at which I was as quick as Max today. I think my theoretical lap was faster. So I think the car wasn't in a terrible place. We've definitely got some work to do. We're still draggy on the straights to make the same speed as Max down the straights. So we've got some things we need to work on, that's for sure.
Great stuff. Thanks, Lewis.
Now we've already heard from his team boss, but Alex Albon joins us on the show. Alex, how was how was the slicks in the rain?
Oh, I mean, Stoffel, you know how it is. Oh, both of you know how it is. It's I think I almost crashed about 8 times. That kind of. Or? Yeah, when the grip goes, it's like a switch, and it's kind of full opposite lock and holding on kind of thing, and the tires start to vibrate because they get so cold. But I think we did the right thing because we knew we were too late. We knew we missed the chance to go to Inter, so we really stuck to our gun and stayed out. And there were some guys who switched to it too late, and then we were in a better position than they were. So it's one of them races where there's so much that could have done. Everyone, I think, can say they could have finished 2 spots higher than they did, apart from maybe Pierre. But yeah.
44 laps on one set of softs.
Yeah.
The team, everybody obviously knew there was another weather system coming in, but the decision to then move onto the medium, could it have been a move to soft? In hindsight, do you wish it had been?
No. Firstly, I don't even know the rules anymore, but could I?
I don't think so. So only if there was definitely inters at the end, because you didn't pit for inters at the start.
Exactly. So I think I was thinking in my head, and I was like, can I go soft?
I'll defend your team. I think the medium was a good decision at that.
But basically, we came out on the mediums. We obviously had a super long stint, and we overtook George, we overtook Yuki, the Haas. We were running P6, and I was actually catching the P5, P4. I thought, this race is perfect, and then he told me on the radio, in 5 minutes there's rain coming. I was like, oh my God, again. And it's kind of awkward because people think, you want the safest strategies only to pit when on the condition of the circuit. And it's really hard to pit and commit a lap too early because, for example, when I went around, on my medium tire, I stayed out 1 lap too long. I lost out to Lando and George. But for the first half of the lap, I thought this is perfect because there was so much grip through 1, 3, 4. I was like, I've overcut all of them. And then by the time I arrived to turn 9 and 10, there was a monsoon. And I lost 20 seconds in 4 corners. And they got back past me. So it's tricky out here. It feels like I'm in Thailand. But we're obviously in Holland.
Yeah, a little bit warmer in Thailand. We've got to let you go. But before we do, this was not supposed to be a weekend that suited you guys. You maximised every opportunity.
Yes.
The strategy to focus on qualifying was so good.
Yes.
It's just the weather and the way the race played out that ultimately held you back. We now go to a circuit that should suit you guys.
It's true, but at the same time, if we even match the pace that we've had this weekend in Monza, we would be ecstatic. The pace we've had this weekend has completely thrown everything, all our knowledge of our car out the window. We said it, but we think the winds, there's been this constant headwind in all the low-speed corners. That's really helped us on the braking phases of a lot of these corners. And I mean, even to do these 44 laps on the soft, you doesn't matter how good you can manage your tyres, you need a really good car to be able to do that. You need a car that doesn't slide, that's well balanced. And we've had it all weekend. It's been a race where, we need to understand it a bit more and take these learnings and see if we can apply them already for Monza.
Got to let you go. Unfortunately, we consider and talk all day. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Thank you, Alex. Great job today. From a great job to, I think on one side of the garage, a good job on the other, a day that just went absolutely in the skip, Ferrari. We talk about the difficulty of making that decision, bringing the drivers in that early, end of lap 1. No tyres ready for Charles Leclerc, and from that point on, his day just went south. Really, really difficult one for Charles.
Yeah, very difficult one. I don't know exactly what happened with all the radio communication, but it seems like Charles called his own pit stop and the team told him to stay out, but Charles still committed to come into the box, and that's what probably triggered all the carnage with the tires not being ready. I think Charles actually probably made the right call if you look back at what Sergio did. But yeah, they just weren't ready, and that backfired a lot.
From that point on, front wing damage, then floor damage, then a retirement. Disappointing day for him. First retirement since, what was it, Australia?
Melbourne, yeah. It's tough. It's been actually a pretty bad weekend for him. He crashed yesterday, started 9th. It was the right call to pit. So I think from a driver's point of view, you've got to follow your gut, and it was so wet that he made the good call to pit. Team weren't ready. That's really quite frustrating because you've got to be on your toes in the garage as well. So they'll, I'm sure, have a big conflab about that and work out what happened. But probably wouldn't have mattered because that floor damage was the same as Carlos in Belgium.
Yeah.
Too big. He was horribly slow.
But you mentioned Carlos, a great day for Carlos. Drove, I think, really, really well. Held Lewis Hamilton behind him. You guys were saying in commentary, the team are on the radio 4 laps left. He's like, shut up, nothing on the radio. I've got Hamilton literally in my wing mirrors. Put it all together, did a nice job on a track that they didn't think would suit them because it's a high downforce track. We know that car doesn't like these kind of circuits.
Yeah, Carlos had a good day. I think they had solid pace, especially in the dry. They looked fairly good, and the wet was maybe a little bit more difficult, and that's why he was probably wanting no radio communications at the end because Lewis was absolutely flying and all over him. But it was a pretty solid day for him.
Good day, bad day. What does Fred Vasseur think? Laura Winters found him.
Fred Vasseur joins me from the walk from the garages and the pit lane down to the hospitality. Fred, a P5 for Carlos Sainz today. Is that the maximum Ferrari could have got from this race, do you think?
No, it's difficult at the end of the race to know what you can do in these conditions. For sure that we lost one car lap 1 with Charles and the contact with, I think, Piastri or Norris. We kept the car on track to expect, and we were expecting the red flag at one stage to be able to repair, but it didn't come, and it was better to stop the car. And on the other side of the garage, Carlos did a very good first part of the race with good stint in Inter and soft. And then the second part was a bit more difficult because we knew that we had a scrub soft, and the second set of Inter was damaged after the quali, but at the end he's scoring points, good points. He's in front of Hamilton, Norris, and so that in these kind of tricky conditions you can always expect better, but you can also score less.
Yeah, Yeah, great attacking and defence from Carlos today, but such a pity for Charles Leclerc, almost a carbon copy of what happened to Carlos in Belgium as well. Floor damage was the issue.
First the front wing, and the front wing went under the floor.
And how difficult, Fred, was it today for your strategists to make decision, watching the rain radars, seeing the depth and the heaviness of rain that we had, and it was seemingly an ever-changing situation as well?
But the advantage is that this weekend they are used to that. From the beginning of the weekend, it's almost like this. And what is a bit strange in Zandvoort is that when the rain is coming, it's very heavy, and in half a lap that you have to feed the X-wet. But I think overall it was well managed, that decision were the good one, that even the decision from Charles at the beginning was the good call. We had the call very late, he was already in the pit lane and we were late on the tires, but I think even with this delay it was a good call. It's a pity that we had the damage.
And Fred, from here on to Monza, the Tifosi expects for Ferrari. How are you feeling ahead of next week?
I'm just going down from the pit wall after such a race.
I've got to ask these questions, Fred.
Don't ask me about the next weekend. That I will have 3 days to prepare the next weekend, and for sure for us it will be a huge one, but she's pushing me.
Yeah, he's got to go, he's got to go. All right, I'll give you a couple of days off, and then I'll ask you about Monza. Deal. Ciao, Fred.
Can't take those two anywhere. Right, on to our podium finishers. Pierre Gasly. What a drive, what a day. An unexpected podium, but a meritorious one. He's in the pen with Lawrence Barretto.
Pierre, congratulations. It's so good to see you back on the podium after a couple of years. Just how does it feel?
It feels good. I must say it feels good, and especially, you know, start of the season, I felt like we were pretty unfortunate on many occasions, and we're like, okay, there's nothing we can do, you know, we just got to keep trying hard, keep pushing, keep focusing on ourselves and improve what we can and what we have in our hands. And today was an insane race, like a lot of actions, a lot of calls. I called it on lap 1 to box straight away. We had great pit stop, great strategy. The pace was good. I could keep up and even pull away from the Ferrari and kind of stay not too far from Fernando. And yeah, it just got me very excited again. You know, we're fighting for this position is obviously a lot more enjoyable. And yeah, we had a small penalty, 5-second penalty, but luckily on the other side, Checo had a 5-second penalty as well. And yeah, it all worked out.
Great to see Pierre enthused and exhilarated by his performance today. But guys, it's not just the performance today. Spa, Stoffel, he had the P3 in the sprint race as well. Alpine rejuvenated. How much of a threat do you guys at Aston Martin, the other teams in the paddock, see Alpine as being? Because it's been a slow start to the season for them. That Monaco podium, the exception.
Hard to judge how much of a threat they actually are, but definitely today they were very quick. And you know, Pierre had a perfect strategy. They pitted on the right lap, but then his actual pace throughout the race was pretty good. You know, he was staying fairly close to Fernando all the way along. He got that 5-second penalty and managed to overtake Carlos again after that. So they definitely had some pace in that car. And yeah, we're at a stage now of the season where it's very close between a couple of teams. Aston, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. Alpine is now maybe in the mix again. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to see that.
It's been a tumultuous few weeks, Jolien, down at Alpine. Of course, we know the top-line management that was reshuffled out of the team at Spa. They got a good driver lineup. They got a decent car under them as well. How much do they need things to just calm down, quiet down, and get on with the job at hand?
Well, I think they're actually okay. The reshuffle has been sort of internal appointments that have been moved into places. There's a bit of a change of structure there as well with it, and they seem to know what they're doing. Is that everyone else is questioning what's going on because big names have left the team. The Gasly one today, he was really good, really strong in all conditions, and it's one of those strange things, I think, where he qualified 12th. It was the strategy that put him up in the top 3, and then he looked like a podium contender the whole way. Yeah. Without that, if he'd been 12th, he probably would have had the pace for about 12th or 10th. I don't see him like charging through the field, but it's going to be sorting out the qualifying and getting that car towards the sharp end, because we saw with Ocon as well in Monaco, if it can qualify higher, get in the groove, run with the faster teams, they don't often actually just get swallowed up and chucked down towards the back order like we saw Zhou do, or the Haas guys. They've got the pace to actually stick there if they can start there.
Team Green started off the season incredibly competitively, podium after podium after podium, then went on a bit of a dry run. But the upgrades in Spa provided promise. More upgrades this weekend provided potential, and Fernando Alonso provided the podium, P2 for the Spaniard.
Fernando, congratulations. Great to see you back on the podium, and that was a hell of a drive from start to finish. How do you feel?
Yeah, I felt great today. The car was, it was alive. I think I was feeling connected to the car today from the beginning. So we overtook a few cars at the start, and then in the very difficult conditions in the first laps, we were very fast, even faster than Max. And yeah, at the end to finish P2 after the difficulties that we went through in the month of July, it feels like, as I said, being alive again.
To hear you talk about being as faster than Max, that must be a really satisfying thing to be able to say and give you a lot of hope that in the next few races that win.
Absolutely. I was happy with the car. I was in sync with the car. So if I wanted to push, the car was responding well. If I wanted to save a little bit tires or something, the car was also giving me the right answers. So it's one of those races on Sundays that everything works fine. I felt also that there were a lot of things going on after 4 weeks of nothing in the break in August. We had everything in one race. We had the red flags, the safety cars, the rain, the dry, the overtaking. So a lot of emotions to go through. I need to sleep today and rethink what happened tomorrow morning when I wake up.
Fernando Alonso set his stall out early in the Grand Prix. Lap 1, turn 3, inside line. It's just Fernando, isn't it? He's wily, he takes his chances. What's it like having him in the team on a day like today when you need to take all of those, I don't want to say risks, but to know that there's the guy behind the wheel that can pull off those kind of performances?
He's great in those circumstances, and he's so switched on. He knows exactly where to position his car, and he very rarely gets it wrong. So when he fully commits to a move, he usually makes it happen, and that's what he did on lap 1, around the outside of turn 2 of Alex, and then he dove straight inside of who was it again?
It was Lando.
No, Lando. Yeah, Lando in turn 3, and then he put himself in a great position for the remainder of the race.
Jolien, a lot of times this year we've seen drivers get into P2 and either not have any answer for Max Verstappen or just admit defeat. Fernando went after him.
He tried.
Oh, he tried.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves that Max was probably under much pressure, but at least Fernando stayed within a pit stop for the whole race. He had a slow pit stop himself, which dropped him a little bit further back than was probably actually the fair margin. So it was much better from Aston Martin. Where do you watch? Are you in the garage, when you're watching? Yeah. I bet the mechanics are all loving it when he's in start of a race like today, up to third, then he's up to second. I bet they're cheering as he's coming through.
Yeah, they definitely love it, and they're so passionate about racing, and every time he pulls a move off, they're obviously very happy. So these guys they work such tough hours during those race weekends, so it's always great to see and reward them with a result.
Yeah, I found that when you have the guys in the garage just really rooting, like galvanizes the whole team, and you believe that this guy can actually produce something special and just lifts everyone. When I was reserve at Lotus, I could feel the same. When Grosjean got a podium out of nowhere, everyone has belief, and it's just feel good for the whole team.
Lance Stroll, fairly anonymous afternoon. I don't think his name was mentioned once on the broadcast today. Spent most of it at the back. Somehow finished P11, just outside the points, which is an astonishing last couple of laps from Lance Stroll. But Fernando Alonso, phenomenal performance from him. We can hear now from Mike Krack.
Mike, congratulations. Fernando Alonso back on the podium. What an afternoon it was. Every challenge thrown all of your way. Talk me through it.
Yeah, every challenge thrown at us already yesterday. And it seems to be the norm now that all the races are somehow, with rain, with the safety cars, with everything that can happen. and you need really steel nerves to also to sustain that. I said yesterday, we are all not going to get old when we continue with the stress levels like this. But yeah, all in all, great weekend for us. Unfortunately, with Lance, we need to have a look at what calls we made there. That was probably not the right one. But these are the situations where you have to decide within very, very short moments. And yeah, I think we need to take the positive from this weekend, back on the podium with Fernando, and yeah, working hard to make this not the last one for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you said before that the car had gone in the wrong direction in terms of its development. Is this a track-specific result, or do you believe you've managed to go in down the right direction now?
I think it is too difficult to say just straight after the race, because we have to be honest, we had the changeable conditions mostly all the time, and this does never give you really a good read of the packing order. I think we have made a small step. We had made a small step in Spa and again here, but I think we will need a couple more.
Okay, great stuff. We'll look forward to Monza then. Thank you, congrats today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Always good to hear from him. Now, 9 race victories in a row. The incredible run continues for Max Verstappen. And I think we might even have seen a little bit of emotion crack out of him on the podium today. This one will mean a lot. He equals Sebastian Vettel's record for those 9 consecutive victories. Can he make it 10, 11, 12? I wouldn't put it past him. Let's hear from him.
Hey Max, congratulations. You made all the right decisions today, and even when you didn't, see that you kind of got on top of them. That must feel really satisfying in front of your home fans.
Yeah, it was immediately a tricky start. On the grid it started raining. I thought together also with the team that it was going to be only like a little downpour, but then maybe you could stay out on slicks, but unfortunately it didn't. But this is probably more like a gamble where sometimes it works out for you or not. This time it didn't, but on the other hand it made it more fun. I mean, it was definitely a race going on after that, because I saw the gap was like 13 seconds or something, but then luckily within a few laps it was down to 3 seconds, because I think on the intermediates as well we had good pace, and once we made the stop again to go onto the slick tires, the car was behaving really well. I mean, I could look after my tires well, and push when I really needed to push, and everything was very smooth.
We heard Christian congratulating you on equaling Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 wins in a row. I know that records aren't like what you're aiming after, but it must be satisfying for you and for the team that you're on this incredible run.
Yeah, it's of course something I never thought was possible. I mean, to win 9 in a row, even when you have the best car on the grid, it's always incredibly tough, and especially with a day like today, everything is basically against you, and it's easy to trip up, make a mistake, go off, but we didn't. We stayed calm, and to win a race like this today is definitely very, very rewarding, and then of course being at your home Grand Prix as well with all the fans makes it even better.
Great stuff, thank you.
Stoffel, what are they going to have to throw at Max Verstappen to stop this run?
Well, at the moment, I don't really know. I mean, they've literally tried everything. I think he's so in control right now. I think he's mastering every situation, and maybe the only thing that can stop him is a mechanical failure on the car.
You just asked while we were listening to him there, how many races left in the season? We said 9.
Yeah.
And we all looked at each other and went, 18 in a row. It's doable, though.
I think he could do it. I believe he can do it if everything kind of falls into place and he keeps doing his job, which he seems no backing off right now. Then I believe it's possible.
Jolien, the superlatives that we use for Max Verstappen have to get greater every single weekend as his performances somehow seem to consistently improve, if that was even possible. Just how good is he, and on what level is he operating right now?
I ran out of superlatives for him a while ago. He's just on a plane that no one else is at, I think, at the moment. We turn up to every race now, and it's normally you ask, how can someone win the race? Now when we turn up every time, how does Max not win this race? And most likely it's reliability or a grid drop in Singapore or something. Because in a normal day, and this wasn't even a normal day, but rain or dry conditions, starting from 15th on a normal track, he'll still come through. He's unstoppable right now.
Could have started him in Belgium today. I think he still might have won. A sensational performance from him. Sensational performance from both of you as well. Thank you so much for being on the show and talking us through a mad afternoon. Jolien, you can go and get some rest now, mate.
It's been long.
Put your head down. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. My thanks, of course, to the entire crew, to Laura Winter, to Sam Collins, to everyone back at base in the UK and everyone on site here who somehow, you can't see them, they're all standing behind the camera, they're still somehow dry-ish. It's been a great weekend. Will he make it 10 in a row in Monza? Will Red Bull Racing continue this streak? We wouldn't put it past them, and we can't wait to have you join us in Italy. And of course, everything kicks off, as always, on Thursday with the weekend warm-up. But everything kicks off on track on Friday. Practice 1 at 1:30 local, practice 2 at 5 p.m. Then on Saturday, it's practice 3 at 12:30, your pre-qual show at 3:30, then qualifying at 4, and the post-qualifying show coming to you immediately after the checkered flag. Grand Prix Sunday in Monza is always something special. Be sure not to miss a moment. 2 p.m. your pre-race show, 3 p.m. the race, and your post-race show, as always, immediately after that incredible, unique podium. Well, that's it from us here in Zandvoort on what has been a wet and wild weekend. Max Verstappen makes it 9 wins in a row. He is unstoppable. We'll see you in Monza. Thank you so much for joining in.
Well done, Max. You deserve that victory.
Yeah, we nailed that.